The 100% Wild podcast is brought to you by OnX Hunt, the nation's #1 GPS hunting app. Download today in the Google Play and App Store.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Drury Outdoors 100% Wild podcast. I'm your co-host, Tim Chelsvik.
I'm your other one, Matt Drury. And we're here. and hunting season's here.
Yeah. Hopefully we have some encounters with some shooters here soon, because I'm itching to I'll shoot a doe. Like I'm excited just to take a deer. Now.
The good part is I'm looking at the 10-day forecast in DeerCast, and a cool front, major fronts moving through.
You had the elite version of DeerCast?
I did manage to get an elite subscription, but nice. 10-day that outlook, it is pretty great. Last year we only had the 5-day, and so it is nice to see that 10-day, because man, looking ahead, like especially in this period, it's so hot right now that I keep wanting to see and even a good or a great pop up on DeerCast. So looking out October 3rd, 4th, 5th, somewhere in there, it looks like a major front's coming, pushing its way down. So
you and I are going to have to talk about vacation time scheduling pretty soon, because it's
no worries.
I see this big mass of Arctic air coming down. It's like, it's going to be go time. And I know a lot of people that are concerned about EHD in their areas.
And we need that.
Just
cool
can't wait for that to hit.
Yeah, we need a first frost for that, though.
Exactly. Yeah.
So today we got another great podcast. We got a good question and an even better guest. So let's jump right into it.
Mr. Tom Ware.
Longtime Drury Outdoors team member, Bow Madness cast member, and a food plot master.
And poker champion.
Oh, that's right.
No, I wish I was a champion on that, but I might not be here sitting talking to you guys if I'd won the main event.
It was like, Tom is one of those guys that the more you visit with him, the more you find out he's good at pretty much everything he does.
Yeah.
Well, that is not true. That's for sure.
Found out that he is a pretty high level poker player, and who knows what else he does. We'll maybe find out.
So, Tom, the season's here. I know you have some spots in Missouri to hunt. How's it going so far? I think the same outlook for you as it is for us. It's hot, but what's happening so far?
Well, I'm actually at Missouri deer camp right now here in Sullivan County, Missouri, and on my farm, and hunted the last few days with my buddy Ryan May, who killed High Five last year. You probably remember that episode. And I'm actually filming him, hoping to get him on one of these shooters here. There's quite a few shooters we've got on camera, but not much daylight activity. It's been hot. We actually took the day off yesterday and drove up to my Iowa farm, and it was kind of depressing. Saw a lot of vultures and eagle over the farm, just a lot of EHD signs. Didn't see any dead deer, but Jason up there, who kind of looks after the farm, he's found quite a few. I think we're up to like 17 dead deer from EHD. So
depressing, man.
Yeah.
I know Dad's up to close to 30 on his Missouri farm.
Yeah.
And they're not really even looking that hard. Like these are like the obvious ones that they're finding.
So 30 is a conservative number.
I think so. In the early season on his place, he never has the bucks. It's usually, he's got the doe, he's got the rest of the herd. The bucks are usually on the neighboring big ag farms,
Sure.
So he has a feeling that usually around October, he starts getting better buck pictures. Then that may not happen this year, unfortunately.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah, we checked. I have I think 17 cameras. We checked every one, and just the pictures were extremely bad. Just the big shooters were missing a lot of them. We found some, but this time of year they do kind of hit acorns, and I'm trying to be optimistic and think maybe they're just on the acorns and they're not on these green food plots quite as much. So that's what I'm trying to be optimistic, guys.
Yeah.
You have to. I mean, I think that's probably the root of all at the root of all successful hunters is that we are eternal optimists.
Well, yeah. Why else would you sit out there and be unsuccessful 99% of the time?
You kind of have to be, because it's like any minute now, any
day, any year now.
Please, Lord, help me here. Well, one of our listeners was wondering just what is the best way to suck deer onto their property during early season. So we should probably get to the question of the day.
Yeah, the question of the day is brought to you by the folks at RTP Outdoors, home of the groundbreaker 3-in-1 food plot implement.
Hey guys, my name is Dustin Kohler, and I am from Arnold, Missouri. Actually have a farm that we hunt on, or a piece of property down in Madison County, Missouri. But my question is, as we get kicked off into 2019, we're always looking to improve our property. What are the best tactics for planting early season food plots to make sure that the deer are, getting to these plots in the appropriate amount of time to make sure that we kind of create a home base for them on our property? Thank you.
Great question. Thank you, Dustin and Tom.
We may be late on the reply. I mean, he's not going to be able to affect anything probably this year, but let's give him his response.
It's like when the Titanic rolled up in Ghostbusters 2 and they said better late than never.
Yeah. So Tom, what do you think here?
Well, I have kind of a large variety of different food plots we plant. I don't know if I necessarily plant a lot of them just for early season. I would say the two that come to my mind first when I'm trying to kill a buck early would be radishes, because they hit them hard early and sometimes they just destroy them. And so if I'm targeting a particular buck that I think maybe we better try to shoot early, he's not on a safe part of or maybe he's on just a small section of my property that I think the neighbors might have a good chance of harvesting that deer, then I might plant radishes trying to draw him over. And the other early season food plot that I'm pretty successful on is of course clover. So those are the two that really stand out to me for early season that I try to are good drawing power.
On those biologic radishes, how long will they continue to have that draw power? Like how long through the season have you typically seen?
Well, my problem with they're not there. So I guess I don't have a good test market. They just hammer them and they're gone. So I don't know, because they're always gone early.
See, I'm asking you for selfish reasons, because I actually planted it on my best spot this year at Mark's, kind of advice. And so same thing you're saying. He's like, hey, if you got a spot and it's your early season spot, definitely plant radishes. And they're hitting it. The food, we were talking off air here before we jumped on, and this food plot that we were hunting the other night, that's what I got planted there. And it was 25 deer, $5, one shooter, early movement. They were hammering it before they went to the beans. And I'm just curious how long I'm going to be able to continue to hunt that food plot before, because I've had years where then like late season, the food still looks great, but they won't touch it, man.
Yeah. I think they're gonna hit the actual radish in the ground later, but the leaves on top and everything, they're hammering now, and they'll actually eat them to the ground. I've seen an entire radish field that was just radishes, just down to the dirt. They just eat everything all the way down to the dirt.
Wow. I do not have that problem just yet. They're eating it. They're doing a good job of eating it, but my deer density is probably not as high, I would say.
Yeah.
When they eat the leaves that are kind of extending beyond the surface of the ground, Tom, what does that do to the growth of the actual radish?
I don't know. I wish I could answer that question. Sure. I think it's got to stop the growth, doesn't it?
It seems like you're kind of taking away part of the power plant, it's doing the photosynthesis for the plant. But
I would think it stops it right then. I'm
speculating.
I'm guessing.
Yeah.
So on the clover, obviously that's you probably plant that in the springtime, I would assume, or else you plant like a last bite type product in the fall and then frost seed it in the winter, February.
That's exactly what we do. Usually we'll plant something like any kind of biologic brassica mix, like the radishes or, winter bulbs and sugar beets, or it could be Last Bite. I really like Last Bite, which actually Last Bite has a little bit of clover in it. So it kind of starts the clover. And then what we do is we will go in there in late February, early March and frost seed more clover on top of it.
Yeah.
So it really comes up in the spring real lush as a new growth clover plot for, the entire summer and then into that fall.
And then really after that, it's just about maintaining it for the most part. It's not something you have to really mess with if you can keep the weeds out and maintain it well enough through the spring and summer, right?
Yep, that's exactly right. And usually, unless that first year is usually real good, we just mow it a few times, and weed control isn't too bad. In future years, as the grasses start getting in there, we'll spray clethodim in it, and it'll control those grasses and keep the broadleaf clover fine. It won't, that product doesn't hurt the clover at all. So it works out well for us.
So, kind of continuing on the food plot strategy and early season strategy, one of the things that Mark and Terry have always talked about, and they, Dr. Grant Woods kind of helped them along way back in the day, is the food plot architecture, trying to get deer to move from one area to another or one food source to another food source. Do you really employ those type of tactics on your farms as well?
Definitely. What we try to do is we try to get kind of aggressive on those green plots that are tight into the bedding area, especially early season. And then they're going from green and then maybe going out to those grain fields that are a little bit farther out there. So sometimes you can find those little tucked back corners that the farmer doesn't necessarily want to farm. Maybe the terrain is a little bit too rough for him, or you can go in and maybe remove some cedar trees or whatever just to make a little quarter acre. I call them killing plots, but then you can go make a little clover plot there or radish plot, whatever you want. And they'll hit that green before the grain. And it seems they'll come out earlier in those fields that are shaded first. Those deer like to, as you probably know, if from hunting a little bit already this year, Matt, they're probably hitting that shade. They get in that shade first, and you want to be in a plot that's shaded early. Otherwise, they're not going to be on it.
Yeah, they ran to the shade. Actually, Scott and I were sitting in the stand, and we were talking about that. They would go straight to it, and then they'd plant themselves there and move along with it almost.
Yeah. It's just, they're just like us. I mean, if we're at a park, where are we going to go? We're going to go under an awning or something that has shade. It's just the major difference in temperature. So.
Yeah.
I like the swing sets.
So what's some of the other early season tactics that you guys use?
Hunt water. That's another one. If you have them, if you have some little water holes, we actually made a couple this year in Illinois. They're not, of course, they're dry right now. We didn't have enough rain to fill them up, and it's kind of good with the EHD going on. And I've heard a couple rumors on in articles and people talking on Facebook or whatever on should you have water holes with the midge, all this stuff. And so I'm kind of at a loss. I don't really know what to do there. I thought Mark maybe went into some of his water holes and made the edges a little deeper. Somebody told me. I'm not sure if that's true.
I believe he did.
I haven't talked to him.
Yeah, I believe he did.
He did do that?
I think so, to try to make it so that they didn't have the ability to kind of puddle up where those midges could hatch.
Yep. Okay. Well, that makes sense. But yeah, that's something we do is hunt water early, especially if it's hot. They got to have water.
Yeah.
Tom, one of the properties I hunt is a cattle ranch. There are cattle watering ponds, but then there's also a couple creeks and one intermittent stream that runs through the property. Do you have a sense for, do deer prefer still water to drink from, or would they prefer moving, maybe a little cleaner water?
I don't know. I don't know that. That's a good question. I'd like to know that. I'd like to know the answer.
Trying to get that figured out.
Because I have both on my farm too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if they have.
I don't know if they really prefer. I tell you what, I've seen some complete ponds that are completely covered in duckweed and some of that, and they'll drink from them. So, if I was a deer, I'd be like, I don't know if I want to drink out of that, but you see them drink out of it. So I don't know. And maybe it's just whatever's closest to them. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, the going into another early season tactic is I really rely on reconics, and I go to where, this time of year, you're only going to have some deer that are daylight.
Yeah.
And we try to find those deer. So that's probably the biggest tactic I could tell you is we try to find the deer that are daylight.
Yeah.
And there's far and few between.
Yeah. Especially when it's hot like this, the moon's kind of backwards right now. I mean, there's a lot of I think pessimistic factors going into a deer moving during daylight. It's one thing to see, the fawns in the doe and, the yearling bucks moving in the evening or afternoons or whatever, but it's a whole nother thing to see a 4 or 5 year old buck or older get up in daylight. And that's what we're typically after. Right. So that's right. When it's hot like this, like I said, the moon, there's just a lot of factors of what kind of makes them not want to move right now.
That's right. It's when you find a daylight mover that's a 5-year-old, you better be trying to get on him if he's on your hit list.
Yeah. And typically, I mean, if you are seeing daylight movement, they must be bedded right there somewhere.
I agree. I think they're bedded close. And that's why it a lot of times pays off, do a lot of scouting this time of year. Mm-hmm. In fact, last night it got up to, it was mid 80s here in northern Missouri. So we went up to southern Iowa and just scouted my farm and actually had a good encounter with a buck we call the Judge. Actually, we just named him last night because we figure out all the other deer are in trouble with this EHD. So we figured this one's not in trouble. So we call him the Judge.
Nice.
But anyway, he's a big 9. He's at least 5. He's kind of a new deer. We're not sure what deer he was, or I'm trying to look at pictures and figure out who he was, but it paid off. He actually came out in the clover field right below my cabin. Yeah. And I'm sitting there going, wow, that's maybe a deer we're going to now target. And if we wouldn't have taken the night off from Missouri to go scout, we wouldn't even have known he's there. So.
Yeah. Come October 1st, he might be in trouble. And realistically, it's probably going to be like the 3rd when that front comes through. I think 2nd or 3rd, somewhere in there.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a good tactic too. Early season is do a lot of scouting.
Yeah.
It's so hard for me to do scouting in early season because I feel like, okay, I've waited all year to hunt. Now it's finally legal for me to go hunt and I want to. But I know in a lot of cases I still need good intel. And so I really need to be spending more time scouting. It's just not what I natively want to do.
Hunt smarter, not harder.
That's right.
That's right.
Did you just make that up? That's brilliant if you did.
Yes.
Wow. Of course I did, Tim. Cool. Well, Tom, any other early season tactics that you think people ought to know about?
Let me think. No, that's mainly it. As far as the question from, on food plots, the two that came to mind were radishes and clover. Sure. Of course, water isn't a food plot, but if you can design a watering hole next to your food plot, all the better. Scout a lot, use reconics, look at DeerCast. That's another thing last night. DeerCast showed poor, and I think the movement was poor. We drove around all the roads on my farm up there and really not very many deer out. We just happened to come back to the cabin and at last light saw that big, the Judge come out. Yeah. So, sweet. They're still moving a little bit, but wasn't a lot of action.
Yeah.
One of the things I appreciate about Tom, and I think I've said this before, whenever you talk to an expert, they're never afraid to tell you a good sell. I don't know.
Well, then I must be an expert at everything.
You are brilliant, sir.
A damn genius.
But someone knows what they're talking about when they also have enough comfort to say, I just don't know about that.
One of the first things that Mark taught me when I came to work here 15 years ago, and at that time we were still selling DVDs and we were doing trade shows. Yeah. And, I had to work the booth. And he said, look, when I was a salesman, one of the things, if somebody stumped me on a question, I'd always say, well, I don't know the answer right now, but I'll find out and I'll get back to you. Yeah. And there's a lot of truth to that, Yep. Just say, if I don't know it, don't BS your way through it.
Right. Yeah. But do go figure out.
Something. Figure it out and follow up.
Yeah. 100%.
Wild.
Yes. You guys ready for the wildlife word?
Beyond ready. Tom, are you ready to have your mind blown by Tim's wildlife word?
I'm ready.
All right.
There's 4 of them.
Okay.
Because there are 4 chambers to a deer's stomach.
Okay, let's hear them.
The rumen, the omasum, the abomasum, and the reticulum.
Rumen I've heard of, none of the rest of them though.
The rumen is the first part where like undigested materials will go and they'll regurgitate them and chew, sit down and chew them up again.
Yeah.
So that's literally ruminating is where that term comes from. So the omasum is for small particles to kickstart the digestion. The rumen is for microbial fermentation. The abomasum is for acid production and hydrolysis of proteins prior to entering the small intestine. And the reticulum is for particle separation.
Man, I feel like I'm back in school and I'm falling asleep, Tim.
Sorry. Need me to like pump fake you or something and it'll wake you up.
No, I want you to find better wildlife words.
I don't know if it's possible. That's
me neither.
Spine tingling content.
That's as good as it's going to get.
It's funny because you think like when you're field dressing a deer, you just pull all that stuff out.
Yeah, you see
don't
literally all those things you just mentioned.
Yeah, well, but
I couldn't tell you what's what.
The trick is with this one, you don't see the 4 chambers. You just see the big stomach sac. You pull it out. You try not to puncture it.
True.
And you're done with it.
Well, maybe I'm seeing it because I'm horrible at field dressing a deer.
I want to see what this thing smells like on the inside. Let's pop this open. But it's amazing just how incredible they're designed. And I think sometimes take it for granted when we're disassembling them, just what went into creating the animal called the white-tailed
deer. That could be said of any living creature or organism. It's unbelievable.
No doubt. So next time you puncture a stomach, think of me.
I will. Oh, I will. Maybe I'll do it on purpose.
Well, thank you to Dustin for the question.
Good time.
We appreciate it. Why don't we shut this thing down, huh?
Yeah. So real quick, if you haven't, make sure, season's here. Everybody's seasons are opening up. Check out the new version of DeerCast. Go to your app store and update or download, or you could go to the desktop version over DeerCast.com. Tons of articles, 400 plus counting. We have new original shows that we're putting out in DeerCast. We have DoD TV episodes, everything you can imagine, and so much more. So if you want to check it out, by all means do so. And I think you'll enjoy.
And October is our Nomad giveaway month for the 30-year anniversary.
That's right.
Celebration.
Great giveaway.
So
still giving away a farm. If you're living under a rock, we're giving away a farm. In DeerCast, you can click the farm giveaway tab and sign up for that.
Yep.
No strings attached.
So much stuff going on.
That's right.
Yeah. So we should get back to work, huh?
Please.
Let's do it.
All right. Until next time, safe hunting. We're adding new videos every week, so make sure to click that subscribe button and check out all of our amazing content. This episode of DoD TV is brought to you by MOTV, where you can enjoy all of our past episodes of 13 for free this week.